The young man looked at my shoes before he looked at my face. Then he reached across me and pressed the button for the executive floor.
Deliveries usually go through the loading entrance. The service elevator is around the back.
The woman beside him covered a smile with her coffee cup. I pressed 17 with a finger that had started aching whenever rain was coming.
17 is private offices. Visitor meetings are usually on 9, unless someone forgot to tell you.
Claire would lose her mind if random people started wandering up there. She built this place from nothing. Her standards are pretty high.
My old phone buzzed inside my purse, but I let it ring. The elevator climbed while 3 strangers praised my daughter for never needing anyone. When the doors opened, Claire was standing outside with a tablet under one arm. Her face changed before she could stop it.
Mom, what are you doing here?
Mason stopped smiling. Tessa lowered her coffee, and the young man behind them stared at the floor numbers as if one might rescue him.
We didn't realize you were Miss Mercer's mother. We were only trying to help with directions.
No, you didn't realize. That part is true.
Claire did not hug me. She called for her assistant and kept one hand pressed against the elevator door, as though I might follow her without permission.
Mrs. Mercer, I can set you up in the guest room. Claire has 2 calls before the board session.
At the reception desk, Evan printed a badge that said, Joan Mercer, Visitor. He placed it in my palm without meeting my eyes. A bowl of sugar packets slipped from the receptionist's hands while she answered the phone. I knelt and helped her gather them from beneath the desk.
You don't have to do that. I'm sorry. Everything has been a little strange around here this week.
I've spent half my life picking things up after people who were in a hurry. Call me Joan.
Behind Dana hung a brass plaque praising Claire as the sole founder of Cedar and Finch. My name was not on the wall, but neither was anyone else's. 11 years earlier, Claire had spread her business plan across my kitchen table beside 2 bowls of reheated soup. She was 30 and terrified.
I don't need you to understand the software. I only need you to believe I can build the company around it.
I sold the last 3 trucks from my delivery business and mortgaged the warehouse I had planned to keep for retirement. The first check was for $1,800,000. My attorney insisted on voting shares because nearly all my savings were going with it. I promised Claire I would stay out of daily decisions. Then I called her suppliers, questioned her first finance director, and rewrote a contract nobody had asked me to read. The last time I visited, Claire asked me not to come back without warning. I told myself she needed independence, though the words felt more like exile. Evan left me alone with coffee that tasted burnt and a glass wall covered in cheerful words about courage, ownership, and belonging. Through the open door, I heard 2 employees arguing softly about severance dates. One had worked there 8 years and still had no meeting on her calendar. A woman carrying a plastic lunch container sat near me and wiped beneath one eye with the edge of her sleeve. I offered her the unopened napkin from my tray.
Thank you. It's allergies, mostly. And maybe being told 14 years of good reviews no longer means I fit the direction of the company.
Did someone tell you that today?
Not directly. They put 6 of us on performance plans Friday. Everyone knows what that means when investors are coming.
The board packet was waiting in the guest room beneath a bottle of sparkling water. A yellow tab marked the pages where my signature was needed. The ownership chart listed Mercer Family Holdings at 58%. It did not explain that Mercer Family Holdings was one widow with an old phone. The company history said Claire had bootstrapped the business from a borrowed desk and a second-hand laptop. That much was true, but it was not the whole truth. I turned to the financing proposal and found a new class of preferred shares buried beneath projections and cheerful graphs. The deal would bring in enough cash to keep the company alive. It could also reduce my voting control from 58% to 31%. The signature line had been marked urgent. No one had marked the page explaining why the transaction had to close before Friday. Claire entered without knocking and removed the visitor badge from the table. She held it between 2 fingers as if someone had made an administrative mistake.
You could have called. Walking in like this puts me in an impossible position.
I called twice. Evan said you were unavailable, and the papers arrived with less than 48 hours to review them.
Because we need the money. Without it, payroll becomes a question in 6 weeks, not 6 months.
Then why am I wearing a visitor badge in a company where my name controls the vote?
Because the staff does not need our family history dropped in the middle of a financing crisis.
I opened my purse and placed a folded letter between us. It had arrived without a return address 3 days before the board packet.
Someone says the company is removing older employees before the new investors inspect the payroll.
That letter came from a manager who was terminated for falsifying inventory reports. He is trying to hurt us.
Nora Bell did not look like she was trying to hurt anyone. She looked like she had not slept since Friday.
You spoke to an employee before speaking to me?
I came here to listen before I signed anything. I thought listening was what you had wanted from me all these years.
You never just listen. You collect facts until they become a reason to take over.
Before I could answer, Mason and Tessa entered carrying presentation boards. They stopped when they saw me seated at the end of the table.
Mrs. Mercer, I am truly sorry about the elevator. We were joking, and it came across badly.
It did not come across badly. I heard the joke exactly as you intended it.
We thought you were with building services. It was a misunderstanding, not something personal.
You did not know enough about me for it to be personal. That was what made it easy.
Mason, set up in the boardroom. Tessa, bring the workforce reduction file and nothing else.
Tessa held a blue folder against her chest. A white label on the edge read Final Transition List.
We still need Claire's signature on 11 separations. Legal wants the notices issued before tomorrow afternoon.
Claire took the folder quickly, but not before I saw service dates written beside the names. 9 employees had been there more than 10 years.
The older teams cost more and resist change. It is not about age. It is about protecting the culture we need next.
Which culture is that, Mason? The one in the elevator? Or the one printed on the lobby wall?
The boardroom overlooked the warehouse floor where employees packed orders beneath bright white lights. Half the directors joined on a screen.
Joan, thank you for coming in person. As the majority voting shareholder, your approval is the central item today.
Mason stared at Graham, then at me. Tessa's mouth opened slightly, but no words came out. I had imagined that moment during the walk from the elevator. When it came, I felt no pleasure in it.
Mrs. Mercer, I had no idea. I want you to know that nothing said downstairs reflects how much we respect the ownership of this company.
We are not discussing the elevator until I understand what happens to people who do not own anything here.
Claire sat beside Graham with both hands folded on the table. Only the small movement of her thumb showed that she was shaking.
Tessa, how many people on the transition list are over 55? And how many have more than 10 years of service?
I do not have the age breakdown prepared. The selection process was based on position, cost, and future skill requirements.
Then the company is prepared to remove people before it is prepared to explain who they are.
All pending separations are suspended until the board receives the full demographic and performance review.
Claire did not object. She simply looked toward the warehouse below, where people were still working without knowing their names had been printed in a blue folder. After the directors took a break, Claire closed the boardroom door and lowered the blinds. The room became smaller without the warehouse in view.
You humiliated me in front of my board, my employees, and the people trying to save this company.
Your company?
There it is. That is why I stopped mentioning you. You can go years without visiting, but the second I disagree, you make the check the loudest thing in the room.
The words hurt because they were not entirely unfair. Money had been the one language I trusted when love became difficult.
I should not have said it that way. But erasing me did not make the money disappear, Claire. It only made the truth harder to carry.
Every interview began with your investment. Every investor asked whether my mother approved my decisions. Nobody asked the men that question.
I remembered calling a supplier after Claire had told me not to. I had thought I was protecting her. The supplier had called her a child the next morning.
I changed the founder story because I wanted one part of my life that did not arrive with your name attached to it.
Did the lie make you feel free?
No. It made people stop asking for a while. I took what quiet I could get.
For a moment, neither of us looked like the owner or the chief executive. We looked like two women who had used silence for different kinds of protection. Claire opened her tablet and showed me the cash report. The red numbers were worse than the summary in the board packet.
We have 6 weeks of operating cash. The new investor will fund 18 months, but they want clean control and no family veto.
They want my shares weakened before they put money in.
They want decisions made by people who are in the building. They also require 14 positions removed before closing.
I taught you to cut empty truck routes and wasted fuel. I did not teach you to call people outdated because their paychecks got expensive.
You taught me survival comes before sentiment. I listened more closely than you realized.
Evan returned with the final consent pages and a black pen from Claire's desk. He placed them between us and left without speaking.
The investor's offer expires tomorrow afternoon. If you do not sign, I cannot promise what happens after payroll.
I picked up the pen and rested its point above the line for Mercer Family Holdings. Claire watched my hand instead of my face.
Before I sign, I want the full termination records, the investor correspondence, and a private meeting with every person on that list.
There is not enough time for that.
Then the investors can wait until I have heard the people we are asking to disappear.
They will not wait, Mom. Lydia already told the board they have another company ready to take the money.
Then put the records in front of me while they decide how badly they want us.
I set the pen down without signing. A small blue mark remained where the tip had rested above my name.
You always find a way to turn one signature into a trial.
Only when someone has already decided the verdict.
Graham gave us the smaller conference room beside accounting. Its table was scarred beneath the polished surface, like old wood covered for company.
You may interview the affected employees, but no promises. The board has not authorized reinstatement, severance changes, or new financing.
I am asking for their account of what happened, not offering them a rescue.
Having the majority owner question them in private will feel like a rescue, whether you say it or not.
Claire was right about that. I wrote the words "no promises" across the top of my legal pad and underlined them twice.
Nora Bell is still downstairs. She said she would stay as long as necessary.
Nora entered, carrying the same lunch container, now empty except for a bent plastic fork. She kept her coat on despite the warm room.
Claire told me who you are. I suppose I should have known better than to complain to a stranger.
You spoke to a woman who handed you a napkin. Nothing about that was wrong.
My performance plan says I failed to adopt the new inventory system. I asked for training 6 times before they gave me a password.
Who received the requests?
My supervisor, then Tessa. Tessa said the training budget was frozen until the financing closed. 2 weeks later, Mason told us the company needed people who could run without having their hands held.
Nora slid her phone across the table. The screen showed 6 unanswered messages, each shorter and more apologetic than the one before. Ben Carter came in after Nora. He moved slowly, but he carried a thick binder against his chest with the steady grip of someone protecting a child.
I built the first tracking system before there was a warehouse. It was ugly, but orders went out on time.
Why are you on the transition list?
The new platform makes my position redundant. That is the official reason. The unofficial reason is that I found the platform was counting returned merchandise as new inventory. I refused to approve the numbers.
That problem was corrected last month.
The software was corrected. The investor presentation still uses the old growth figures.
Claire looked toward Graham. Graham removed his glasses and began cleaning lenses that were already clear.
The performance plans were not designed to force resignations. We needed documented standards before restructuring.
Were employees given the equipment and training required to meet those standards?
Not consistently. Department budgets were reduced, and managers made individual decisions.
Yet, human resources signed the plans.
I signed them because legal told me the company needed a defensible record before the layoffs. My husband has been out of work since winter. I have 2 children on my insurance, and I told myself paperwork was not the same as hurting anyone.
I understood the arithmetic of fear. That did not make the signatures disappear, but it kept Tessa from becoming a simple villain in my mind. Mason arrived 10 minutes late with no jacket and a wet mark beneath one arm. He took the chair farthest from me.
Before we begin, I want to apologize again. The elevator comments were careless and disrespectful.
Tell me about the phrase, future culture. You used it when we discussed the older employees.
The investors want faster decisions, fewer layers, and employees comfortable with automation. I used poor language to describe that.
Did they ask you to identify older employees?
They asked for legacy cost reduction. Everyone in the room understood what that meant, even if nobody said an age. I was hired to prepare the company for a sale. My bonus depends on closing, and my father moved into assisted living in March.
Your father needing care explains your fear. It does not explain why you enjoyed making a stranger feel small.
By 2 in the afternoon, the coffee had gone cold and my hand cramped around the pen. Claire brought me half a turkey sandwich from the employee kitchen.
You have not eaten since you got here.
Neither have you.
She split the sandwich and sat beside me instead of across the table. We ate without discussing the company for almost a minute.
Mason was my hire. I thought he was blunt because he was willing to say what other people avoided.
Blunt people tell the truth upward, too. Men like Mason usually save their sharpest words for whoever cannot hurt them.
I should have noticed. I was grateful whenever he made a problem sound simple.
Evan delivered the personnel files in 3 gray boxes. Each folder contained reviews, attendance records, salary histories, and recent performance plans. 9 employees had strong reviews until the same month. Then their language changed from reliable and experienced to resistant and slow.
Who instructed the managers to revise the evaluation categories?
Mason circulated a template after a meeting with Lydia's operating team. Claire was copied, but she did not respond.
I received more than 300 messages that week. Not responding was not approval.
When you are the chief executive, silence can be the most convenient form of approval.
The investor correspondence filled a secure online folder. Graham insisted we review it together, though he kept checking the time on his watch. Lydia's first letters discussed product demand and cash flow. By the 4th week, the language turned toward control, headcount, and founder dependency.
What does founder dependency mean?
They believe the company relies too heavily on Claire's personal relationships and decision-making.
A later message requested a transition plan for key executives. Claire's name appeared at the top, followed by the words no later than 6 months after closing.
They are not only buying my control, they are planning to remove her.
That language is not final.
Graham, when did the board first learn they wanted a management transition?
3 weeks ago. The directors considered it a negotiable condition, not a settled decision.
Why was it missing from my summary?
Claire asked us not to alarm you until the terms were clearer.
I knew you would reject the entire deal the moment you thought they were pushing me out.
You hid the cost from the person expected to pay it.
No, I hid it from my mother because I needed the owner to think clearly.
Near 4 o'clock, Evan asked to speak without Claire or Graham in the room. His hands were clasped so tightly that his knuckles had gone pale.
I sent the anonymous letter.
How did you find my home address?
It was on an old board contact sheet. Claire would have fired me if she knew I contacted you. She was sleeping in her office and taking calls from the bank before sunrise. I thought she was making decisions she would hate after the crisis passed.
Did she order anyone to target the older employees?
Not in words. She kept saying the deal had to close, and people around her began doing whatever they thought would make that happen.
I found Claire alone in her office, standing beside a cabinet filled with unopened awards. Her shoes were beneath the desk, and her feet were swollen.
Evan sent the letter.
I wondered why he could barely look at me.
He was trying to protect you from the decisions people were making in your name.
Everyone keeps protecting me by going around me. You did it when I was 12, and apparently my employees do it now.
When Claire was 12, she had wanted to quit piano lessons. I had called the teacher and arranged another year before, asking why.
I confused keeping doors open with deciding which one you had to walk through.
And I confused shutting you out with becoming my own person.
Claire showed me a second cash report stored outside the board portal. It included debts that had not appeared in the investor presentation.
What is the personal guarantee on this line?
My house and the remaining shares in my name. I signed it 5 months ago.
Claire had not been protecting a fortune. She had already placed nearly everything she owned beneath the company and waited for it to hold.
I could provide a bridge loan, but the board would demand terms. They would think I was taking over.
Would they be wrong?
Lydia Marsh joined the call from an airport lounge. Behind her, people rolled suitcases past a wall of bright departure screens.
We respect the Mercer family's history, but Cedar and Finch requires institutional discipline, not family negotiation.
Does institutional discipline require changing employee reviews before terminating them?
We did not direct the company's human resources process. We requested a sustainable cost structure supported by management. Lydia, will you confirm that my removal is not a condition of closing? We require the board to evaluate leadership after a transition period. I cannot promise an outcome before that review.
And if we pause the employee terminations for an independent review?
Then our committee will consider the closing conditions unmet. The offer will expire at 3 tomorrow afternoon.
After the call, Graham spread 3 options across the boardroom table. None of them looked like the kind of choice people celebrated.
We accept Lydia's terms, seek bankruptcy protection, or secure replacement funding within days.
How much is needed to reach the profitable quarter in Claire's forecast?
12 million if revenue holds, 15 if it does not.
Joan could fund part of it, but the board would require governance protections and an outside operating officer.
Which means she saves the company and sits behind me at every meeting for the rest of my life.
Not if I write the terms, so I cannot.
Evan found another document while preparing the board files. It was saved beneath a folder labeled Insurance Renewals.
I do not think this was meant to be included, but it has Claire's electronic signature.
The first page was called a Leadership Continuity Agreement. The second contained Claire's resignation, dated 6 months after the proposed closing.
You already agreed to leave.
I agreed to resign if the board decided my departure was necessary to protect the financing.
You were going to lose your house, your company, or your job, and you planned to tell me after I signed.
I planned to tell you when you could hear it without buying the problem away from me.
I folded the resignation along its original crease. Outside the boardroom, the evening shift was arriving with lunch bags and winter coats.
I can call a special vote tonight and remove you before the investors do.
I know.
Or I can offer the bridge money without taking your chair and trust you to repair what happened here.
Claire did not ask me to trust her. She placed the resignation between us and waited while I reached for the board phone. I lifted the board phone and asked Graham to return before anyone left the building. Claire remained across from me, her unsigned resignation resting between us.
Call every director. Tell them this is a financing meeting, not a removal vote.
You have not heard my answer.
I am not asking whether you want your mother to save you. I am asking whether the chief executive will accept conditions.
What conditions?
I turned my legal pad to a clean page. For once, I wrote slowly enough for Claire to see every word before I spoke it.
I will provide $8 million as a bridge loan. The company must find the remaining money through the bank, asset sales, and real operating cuts.
$8 million still leaves a hole large enough to close us.
Then management will have to do what management should have done before printing 11 names in a folder. An outside operating officer will be appointed for 18 months. The personnel decisions will receive an independent review.
And you will approve the person who sits beside me and questions every decision.
No, the independent directors will choose that person. You and I will both lose the right to make the appointment alone.
Claire read the page twice. The muscles around her mouth tightened when she reached the final condition I had written.
An irrevocable voting proxy. You would give control of your shares to someone else?
For 5 years, except for a sale or bankruptcy, my attorney can prepare it for an independent trustee.
Why would you give up the one thing you have used to keep this company tied to you?
Because I cannot ask you to stop hiding from my control while keeping my hand on the lock.
Claire looked down at the resignation again. She did not thank me, and I was relieved that she did not. The directors returned on screens from kitchens, parked cars, and one dark hotel room. Graham read my proposal without changing his expression.
The bridge gives us approximately 4 months. It is not enough unless the operating plan changes immediately.
Then we approve the money only after management presents a plan that does not depend on false records or disguised age cuts.
I will submit a revised plan by noon tomorrow. I will also accept the outside officer and the personnel review.
The board also needs a recommendation regarding Mason and the altered evaluation process.
Place Mason on administrative leave tonight. Tessa will remain available to the independent investigator.
Mason was waiting outside the boardroom when the meeting ended. He had buttoned his jacket, though his shirt collar remained damp.
Claire, I followed the direction I was given. You cannot make me the entire problem because your mother walked into the wrong elevator.
This is not about one elevator. You changed evaluation language and tied managers' bonuses to a list you helped create.
I made the company attractive enough for someone to save. Everyone here wanted the result until they saw the method.
You are entitled to a fair investigation. You are not entitled to call cruelty a method and expect the word to clean it.
Mason looked at me as if he had only then remembered the woman in the worn shoes. Security did not touch him as he collected his coat. Tessa remained in the smaller conference room with the personnel boxes. She had removed her earrings and placed them beside a stack of unsigned notices.
Am I being terminated too?
Not tonight. You will provide every message and explain every signature to the investigator.
I kept telling myself I was preserving jobs by helping the financing close.
Most harmful decisions arrive with a reason that sounds useful. That is why the signature still belongs to the person who made it.
Tessa nodded and pulled the first box toward her. She began separating the documents she had approved from the ones Mason had altered afterward. Ben and Nora returned after most of the day shift had gone home. Neither appeared pleased to be sitting with the owner and chief executive.
The termination notices are suspended, but I cannot promise every position will remain.
That is more honest than the performance plan.
If you need savings, cancel the second warehouse lease. We have been using less than half the space for 8 months.
The expansion is part of the growth story we gave the bank.
Then give the bank the truth. Empty shelves cost more than admitting the forecast was wrong.
The new inventory software charges by user. Half the office has accounts they never open, while warehouse training was frozen.
How much would reducing the licenses save?
Nearly $400,000 a year, according to the invoice that was left on the printer.
We can also repair the counting error without the consultant. Give me Nora and 2 weeks with the system.
The people marked as too expensive have found almost $1 million before dinner.
Claire wrote the numbers down without defending herself. The page filled with savings nobody had asked the affected employees to find. We worked until the cleaning crew arrived. Their cart waited outside while the people inside argued over leases, insurance, software, and executive bonuses.
Freeze my salary for 6 months and cancel the leadership bonuses. That gives us another $900,000.
The directors will need to approve compensation changes, but I believe they will.
Sell the unused packaging line, end the expansion lease, and ask the bank for a 12-month extension against Joan's bridge commitment.
Do not use my name as the answer before the bank sees what management is giving up.
Then they will see my house, my salary, and every number I should have shown them months ago.
At 7 the next morning, Lydia called before I had finished the oatmeal Evan brought from the cafeteria.
We understand the company is considering alternate funding. Our committee needs your decision before the market opens.
We will not approve altered voting rights or employee reductions designed to satisfy your closing schedule.
Then our offer is withdrawn. I hope family sentiment does not become more expensive than you expect. This is not sentiment. It is a correction to a process I allowed to become dishonest.
Lydia ended the call without another word. Claire kept looking at the dark screen, as though 18 months of promised safety had vanished inside it. The bank agreed to review an extension but required a written plan by noon. There was no celebration, only another clock placed on the table.
The revised plan saves 7 of the 11 positions. 4 roles still overlap after the warehouse lease is canceled.
Offer the 4 employees 12 weeks of severance, continued insurance for 3 months, and priority interviews for open positions.
Use part of my loan for the severance reserve. Saving the company does not make those 4 losses imaginary.
That will reduce the operating cushion by nearly 2 weeks.
Then management has 2 fewer weeks to pretend severance is where the company should become brave.
Claire met each affected employee with Tessa and an outside attorney present. She asked me not to sit in the room, and this time I agreed. From the hallway, I watched Nora enter first. She carried a notebook instead of her plastic lunch container.
Claire offered me the training coordinator position. It pays a little less, but it is not a performance plan.
Will you take it?
I asked for the offer in writing, and 2 days to think. I am done being grateful before I read the paper.
I smiled before I could stop myself. Nora did not smile back, but she folded the written offer carefully and placed it inside her notebook. Ben agreed to remain for 6 months, repair the inventory system, and train 2 younger employees to take over after he left.
I was planning to retire next spring anyway. I only objected to being called obsolete before the system worked.
You were right to object. I let people turn experience into a cost category because I was afraid of the bank account.
Fear makes everyone efficient at the wrong thing.
That sounds like something worth putting on the lobby wall.
Ben gave a small laugh. Claire did not, though some of the strain left her face for the first time since the elevator doors opened. The investigator completed the first review 10 days later. Mason had changed 9 evaluation summaries and deleted 2 managers' objections.
The board has terminated Mason for falsifying personnel records, retaliation, and conduct inconsistent with his position.
His elevator remarks appeared on the final page, not the first. I was glad the decision did not depend on who I happened to be.
Tessa will receive a final warning, complete compliance, retraining, and report temporarily to the outside operating officer.
I will also receive a formal board reprimand for failing to supervise the process and disclose material risks.
Put it in the record without softening the language. A family company should not have a family version of responsibility.
The bank approved the extension after the warehouse lease was canceled and the bridge papers were signed. The company still had no room for comfort. My attorney brought the voting proxy to Claire's office in a plain white envelope. I read every page while she stood at the window.
You can still change your mind. Nobody on the board asked you to give up the vote for 5 years.
That is why it has to be my decision.
I signed beneath the trustee's name. My hand shook once, not from age, but from the unfamiliar feeling of opening a fist.
I do not know whether this fixes anything between us.
That afternoon, Claire asked the employees to gather beside the warehouse floor. Some stood with folded arms, while others stayed near the exits.
I approved a restructuring process that was rushed, unfairly documented, and influenced by assumptions about age and cost. 4 positions are still being eliminated. Those employees deserve honest reasons, fair support, and an apology that does not pretend the outcome is painless.
No one applauded. A forklift beeped somewhere beyond the shelves, and Claire waited until the sound passed.
I also need to correct the story this company has told about its beginning. My mother, Joan Mercer, sold her business assets and provided the capital that made Cedar and Finch possible. She remains the company's majority owner.
Claire did not call me a co-founder, and I was glad. The idea had been hers. The risk had belonged to both of us in different ways.
I removed Joan from the company history because I wanted my work to stand without her name. In doing that, I replaced a complicated truth with a convenient one.
A few employees turned toward me. Nora did not. She kept her eyes on Claire, which was where they belonged. Afterward, Claire and I walked to the parking lot without touching. The afternoon had gone cold, and my old car was covered in a thin layer of dust.
I still get angry when I remember how often you stepped in before I asked.
I still get angry that you made me disappear instead of telling me to step back.
I did tell you.
You did. I heard the words and decided I understood them better than you did.
Claire looked toward the building, where the 17th floor lights were already coming on. She had another meeting, and I had a long drive home.
Next time, call before you come.
Next time, answer.
She almost smiled, but the expression passed before it fully arrived. We did not hug, and neither of us pretended the missing years had been returned. I opened my car door and found the visitor badge still clipped to my coat. I removed it, placed it in the cup holder, and drove away without throwing it out.